more recent Rick and Morty seasons seem to have a reputation of not having enough episodes that fans love compared to the initial seasons. This has led many people to believe Rick and Morty fell off. While that's not entirely true, I still took it upon myself to go over the most loved episodes of the show to remind the world that Rick and Morty is really the GOAT at what it does. And surprisingly, the first episode on our list comes from a more recent season. Fear No Mort is beautiful, and I say that because it explores what no other Rick and Morty episode does, which is how deep Morty's fear actually goes. The episode opens with Rick and Morty wandering through this carnival of nightmares, looking bored and unimpressed, because obviously, after having so many adventures, nothing scares them anymore. Then they stumble on this strange guy who offers to show them the scariest place in the universe. So they follow him and end up at a Denny's.
Okay, what the hell?
Yeah, this is punching down. Denny's is a nice chain that gives people starchy food when they're up late.
It's a hack joke, buddy.
Nope, this is the place.
Eventually, they learn about the fear hole hidden in a bathroom stall, and a film beside the hole shows them that whoever jumps in sees their greatest fear, and conquering it means they emerge fearless. Morty goes into the hole, and what follows is the most sensational, mind-blowing slow burn in Rick and Morty history. Inside, he's tormented by grotesque monsters who try to dissect him, stuff him with maggots, and invade his mind. He barely survives, and Rick has to fight his way in just to rescue him. They crawl out, thinking they're free, until Rick's dead wife suddenly appears in their living room. I'm not going to spoil the rest for you if you haven't seen it, but if you have, you know what's up.
So yeah, I'd say there's a 100% chance that we're still...
God damn it! Is this gonna be a whole thing?
I think at some point in the fear hole, Morty overcomes his fear of YouTube channels and says you should subscribe to my channel immediately. But seriously though, Fear No Mort is one episode that didn't need an over-the-top sci-fi adventure to still hit the nail on the head. And honestly, this episode is the closest thing the show has come to pure psychological horror without losing the comedy we love about Rick and Morty. And even though it is a really good episode, it's nothing compared to the other 8 episodes we're going to cover in this video. So you better stick around until the end. And coming right up is an all-time favorite, Pickle Rick.
I'm Pickle Rick!
Everything about this episode is amazing. From Rick turning himself into a pickle, to Dr. Wong owning him with her epic monologue.
You are the master of your universe, and yet you are dripping with rat blood and feces, your enormous mind literally vegetating by your own hand.
So after Rick turns himself into a pickle to avoid family therapy, Beth takes the antidote away from Rick, leaving him alone in the garage. Unfortunately, he gets washed into a sewer. But just before we sympathize with his tragedy, he rebuilds himself into a Terminator-like rodent using rat organs. And that's when the episode gets brutal.
Oh yeah!
As if butchering all these rodents isn't badass enough, Rick goes ahead to take down a high-security Black Ops facility that he mistakenly stumbled on. While Rick is busy playing Tiny John Wick, the family is in therapy being told by Dr. Wong that Rick isn't the rebel hero they think he is. He's a frightened man who uses science to dodge responsibilities. And just then, Pickle Rick walks in and proves her right.
Why didn't you want to come here?
Because I don't respect therapy, because I'm a scientist, because I invent, transform, create, and destroy for a living, and when I don't like something about the world, I change it.
The thing about this episode that makes it so loved by many is watching Rick go from being a literal pickle to a badass pickle who can body an entire garrison of trained agents. Another thing is seeing Wong analyze Rick and leave him speechless, which is exactly how the episode Un-Mort Ricken left me.
You're basically fracking the central finite curve to flesh out a version of yourself. Shouldn't you be turning yourself into a pickle?
What do you care what I do to the curve?
The story begins with Rick Sanchez finally ready to face Rick Prime. The fire that had been burning inside of him for decades finds expression here, becoming the whole point of the episode. Every character in the episode seems to move with a clear purpose. Morty wants to help. Evil Morty wants to make sure Rick doesn't burn everything down, while Rick himself is out for revenge.
Morty, you can't come. Evil Morty, stay out of my way. Gonna kill my nemesis. Rick out.
When we get to the final standoff, the battle just becomes so intense and it ends with Rick Prime knocking Rick out, then Evil Morty capturing Rick Prime and setting him up for Rick to end.
Let's do this then.
Here, all the sci-fi toys are no more, just Rick beating the absolute life out of Rick Prime.
You lived in my house!
The sad montage that follows says it all. Even, the background song is a callback to Morty's cosmic horror moment in Rick Potion 9. Back then, Morty was the one who stared ahead in shock as he abandoned his real family. Now, Rick sits in that same empty silence, while everyone around him moves normally. This episode was so emotionally heavy and good, even though some fans didn't like it because it was Evil Morty that basically ended Rick Prime instead of Rick. But I think it was more realistic that way. No way Rick could beat Rick Prime. And a lot of other people see it that way, so let's move on to the next episode. So in this episode, Rick's space cruiser won't start, so he drags Morty into the battery only to discover that the battery powering the ship is actually a tiny universe he created, filled with people who exist to power his car.
That's slavery! It's society. They work for each other, Morty. They pay each other. They buy houses. They get married and make children that replace them when they get too old to make power.
That just sounds like slavery with extra steps.
Ooh la la.
Things get funnier and even darker inside the microverse battery when the pair discover their top scientist, Zeep Zanflorp, created a miniverse to generate his own electricity, and then another guy named Kyle also created a teenyverse for the same purpose.
So he made a universe, and that guy is from that universe, and that guy made a universe, and that's the universe where I was born?
It's the only episode so far that makes us laugh and question our real position in the universe at the same time. What if we are all just in a miniverse somewhere generating bioenergy for one of Rick's giant batteries? And speaking of Rick's,
Jeez, Rick, what is this place?
The Citadel of Ricks. It's the secret headquarters for the Council of Ricks.
the episode opens with the Council of Ricks thinking that our Rick is responsible for the murder of these dead Ricks. So to clear his name, Rick and Morty are forced into a multiversal manhunt, where they jump from dimension to dimension, all to find out who killed these Ricks. And they do eventually.
This Rick was being controlled remotely, puppeteered by somebody else. This is the receiver. Yeah, but where's the transmitter?
But why I love this episode so much is because I got to see the Citadel of Ricks for the first time, and more importantly, got introduced to Evil Morty. This episode blessed us with the shivering realization that somewhere out there is a Morty who outgrew his Rick and became a menace. That idea alone is what makes it so unforgettable. The charm of this episode is also in how it balances all that absurdity with a solid storyline.
When I first saw all those Ricks and Mortys, I thought, gee, that kind of devalues our bond. But then I realized it just means that our relationship must be pretty special to span over all those different timelines.
Yeah, it's gotta be that way. You're a camouflage.
And it makes him question his own place beside Rick. Meanwhile, Rick, who always hides his feelings behind jokes, shows small cracks of concern whenever Morty is pushed too far. The writers really outdid themselves. They made it so that even when you see Rick genuinely caring for Morty, you start wondering if there's a deeper meaning behind it.
Hey, someone's been spending too much time around glowing rocks, am I right?
Total Rickall is that episode where the Smith family's home is invaded by a host of aliens who drop in as memory parasites. Every time a family member tries to remember a fond memory from the past, a new parasite appears, causing them to become suspicious if any of them are even real. This episode gave Serious Among Us vibes until Morty managed to decipher that the parasites only multiply with happy memories, which causes the whole family to start remembering all the unpleasant things they did to each other in the past in order to get rid of the bloodsuckers. The writers really flexed on us with this episode. The way they weaved complex storylines and cultural references into the episode needs to be studied. And that's something they also did in the Vat of Acid episode. The story begins like a regular Rick and Morty hustle, where Rick takes his grandson to some shady alien warehouse to make a business deal with a group of cronies. Everything falls apart, and it turns out that Rick's only escape plan is, well, a fake vat of acid. Morty can't stand Rick's idea, and from that little spark of irritation, he emerges from the vat and shoots the cronies.
This is fucking Christ enough already!
While on the journey back home, both of them get into an argument, and Rick agrees to build him a gadget called the Save Point device, and this sets the tone for the rest of the episode. This is a simple device anyone could understand. One click of the button, and Morty can rewind his life to the moment he last saved, kind of like saving your progress in a video game. So, Morty does what anyone would do with a second chance that has no consequences. He abuses the device thoroughly, causing a trail of disaster where several Mortys are killed in alternate timelines every time he presses the button. And then the device leads him to meeting the love of his life in this montage that might just be the best in the series. It lasts until Jerry mistakenly presses the button on the remote and takes Morty back to the time before he met her. The episode ends with us realizing that the only reason Rick made the gadget for Morty was to punish Morty for mocking his vat of acid idea. So Morty has to jump into another fake vat of acid once to save himself and soothe Rick's pettiness.
Ever make fun of me again, ever! All right, come on, Morty, let's go home.
Wait, what? This isn't our reality?
Wait, you think I'd waste our home teaching you a fucking lesson?
This twist at the end was just perfect, and it made me laugh so hard even though what Rick did was dark. And if you think the writing there was insane, then you must not have seen The Wedding Squanchers.
In the name of the Squanch, the 6 rivers, the 4 squanches, and the 9 balls, I unite these 2 organisms in eternal squanch!
The Wedding Squanchers is not only a loved episode, it's also the most emotional one in the series. Bird Person and Tammy were tying the knot, and for once, we thought everyone was dressed up and happily not trying to kill each other. But, of course, peace doesn't last long around Rick. During the toast, Tammy makes a shocking revelation that turns the whole ceremony into a bloodbath.
I'm not a high school senior from the planet Earth. In a lot of ways, what I really am is a deep cover agent for the Galactic Federation, and you guys are a group of wanted criminals.
The emotional part comes at the end of the episode, when Rick turns himself in to protect his family from the Federation, which is a rare, heartbreaking act of sacrifice. And the second part of this story, the Rickshank redemption, just makes it sweeter.
Rick, here's... What's going on?
It's hard to tell. He may have manifested some sort of butt.
The episode opens with Rick strapped to a brainalyzer and marched through layers of his own mind while being interrogated by the Galactic Federation, all to know his formula for portal fluid. The whole episode plays out like a psychological heist disguised as a premiere, and once you put Rick in a corner like that, well, you learn things fast, like how he lost his Beth and Diane. You see, people sometimes forget how much anticipation there was before this episode dropped. It took 18 months of memes, theories, and fan arguments about whether the show was ever coming back. And then, on April Fool's Day of all days, Adult Swim just drops it without any buildup whatsoever. That shock was part of the magic that makes the Rickshank redemption lovable.
He's a spy, blow him up. I'm gonna go take a shit.
People often bash the creative highs and lows of other Rick and Morty episodes, but almost everyone agrees that the voicing was tight, the pacing clean, and the story execution was flawless. And just when you thought Season 3 couldn't get better, 7 episodes later, we got the Ricklantis Mixup. It's not just one of the best Rick and Morty episodes, it's the best single episode of animated television ever made. And when you step back, you can see why.
Jeez, I didn't know there were still Ricks and Mortys living on the Citadel. I wonder what their day-to-day lives are like.
Well, you can keep wondering that while we go on a fun, fresh, self-contained adventure to Atlantis.
Rick announces an adventure to Atlantis, and you think you're in for a wet adventure, only for the next screen to drop you into the Citadel of Ricks to see a world where low-class Ricks work machines because they are not smart enough to build portal guns. It's here the show merges 4 completely separate storylines together: political upheaval, street crime, factory labor, and police corruption, all in 22 minutes. If you look at it closely, you'll see the events of the Citadel are a satire on what happens in the real world. We have segregation, capitalistic caste systems, overcrowded public housing, police violence, exploited labor, fascist ideology, and corrupt elections. The list of vices goes on and on. Now, when you mix infinite universes with infinite versions of the same people, you get a world that looks suspiciously like our own. A hierarchy that chooses stability over fairness, a population that sees itself as disposable, and a politician that wins an election simply because he's the only one that knows how to play the game better. Honorable mention of episodes that should have also been on this list: Meeseeks and Destroy, Look Who's Purging Now, Star Mort Rick Turn of the Jerry, and Mort Dinner Rick Andre. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll keep these interesting videos coming. Deal?